This exciting interview with a real live exorcist is about to start. So hold on to your seats and get ready to hear about everything that goes bump in the night. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a very special guest today. This one I'm super excited about because we're going to be talking about exorcisms and haunted houses and all kinds of the stuff that goes bump in the night. And I have a ton of questions about this because this is a fascinating subject. And there's also some stuff that I feel like I need to get cleared up because there's certain things I believe in and certain things I don't. And once I had a conversation with this gentleman here on the phone prior to doing this, he kind of made me very curious about a lot of stuff that I've kind of put on the back burner. So, speaking of that, I want to introduce you guys. This is Phil Mendoza. He is a real live exorcist. And when I say exorcist, I mean, yes, he gets rid of the spirits in the house. And he has been doing this for, I don't know, how long you been doing this? Like 20 plus years or something like that?
So the exorcism aspect has been going on for somewhere around 13 years, and the overall time in the occult science has been over 25.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I want to hear the story of how this all got started. I mean,
Sure.
who chooses something like this as a career, like,
Not me. I didn't want this either, believe it or not. So this is the last thing that I wanted. It's something else that's always terrified me. Growing up as a child in the south side of Chicago, we moved into a house that was haunted. And there was a lot of things that went bump in the night, of course. And I was raised in a Christian household, but everyone pretty much ignored it, and there was always nothing. So the experiences started getting heightened. One night I was in my bedroom, and I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers, and my dad was the only person that worked in the construction business. So money was pretty tight. And I had some bedroom windows that had rotted out. So instead of being replaced, they simply got boarded up because we didn't have money to fix them. So the room was pitch black at night. And one evening while I was in bed, I felt like somebody was watching me. And I looked, and I could see this glowing light blue person standing towards the corner of my bedroom in like Renaissance attire with the puffy shoulders, the tight sleeves, the large hat. And I did what any other kid would do, was pinch myself and be like, is this real? Am I dreaming? And it was real. So then I was really terrified. I was from head to toe completely I didn't know what to do. So I pulled the cover over my head. I would look, he'd still be there. What does he want? And I'd be praying and asking for help. And then he was still there. Eventually in time, he did leave. But then I was terrified to go to sleep at night. And as things progressed, I started getting dragged out of my bed and into the closet.
Now, was it this Renaissance guy that was actually dragging you out?
No.
Okay, so did you ever identify who did that? Like
the dragging out part, there's a lot of personal work I had to do to get that resolved in time, but it did not happen quickly. So, going to sleep became the last thing that I ever wanted to do, because you're living in a nightmare. And
okay, well, wait, I have a question about that.
Sure,
real quick.
Sure.
Sorry. Why is it that it seems like they always show up at night instead of like during the day?
You know what? That's a really good question. I know that there are certain times that certain angels and certain entities are more prevalent. There are some that their contact or their calling card is in the daytime. Other entities, it's in the evening time. But usually when people are experiencing hauntings, it comes when nobody else is available to witness what you're experiencing. So it's a really great isolation technique. Let's say, hey, there's nobody to corroborate your story. There's nobody there that can share in this experience. And so this leaves the person isolated and alone and terrified.
Wow, that's pretty freaky.
Right. Because I mean, what we're talking about here is the very essence and the pinnacle of deception. there's no other game that's better than this, and this is what divides, conquers, and splits people apart, and it has the tendency to break families literally, because one person is going through this and they say, hey, these are the experiences I'm having, and everyone else is like, I don't understand, I'm not experiencing any of this. Not only is my life completely normal, but I don't know what to do to help you. I don't know, that you don't have any tools in your arsenal to do this outside of prayer. So at that point in time, I did what a 12-year-old kid would do. I went to every priest in every parish and every church that would give me 5 minutes of their time and ask for help. And I got pretty much the same responses, was pray on it, and these things aren't real, and perhaps you have an overactive imagination, and you're a young man, your body's going through changes, so a lot of things are confusing, and that didn't help at all.
Okay, so I was raised in a Christian church and the whole 9 yards. So I know that they always said when I was experiencing paranormal activity living in a haunted house as well, I would call all the different churches and stuff, and they said it was the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that you got a different response, that they were like, you're making this up.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that this is a fabrication, prey on it, and all these typical things that, of course, that's of no help whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt very defeated, and the first thing that I did was, first chance I got to move out, I jumped on that and moved out quickly. And I felt that things were going to be a little bit better, and I was dating somebody at the time, and I woke up and she was crying, and I couldn't get out of her what was happening. Why are you crying? Did I hit you in my sleep? Like, what's going on? And when I finally got an opportunity to get her to talk, she said, he's here. And I said, who's here? I said, did somebody hurt you? I mean, I was scared as to where this whole thing was going. And she said, no, I was sitting at the edge of the bed, and looked like I was having a conversation with a closed bedroom door. And there was some discussion about some keys and some different things. And she said, I realized that you were talking in your sleep. And when I reached out and touched your shoulder, that's when the being that you described to me that was in your home in the South Side, the Renaissance man, stepped through the door and threw her into an emotional tailspin.
Why? Because she saw it?
Because she saw it.
Oh.
And she had never experienced anything like that.
Wow.
Before.
Wow. Okay, so then what happened?
Well, that's when I realized I needed to start reading everything I could on this subject and try to figure out what's happening. I was very terrified, because now I was realizing that someone was talking to me and communicating to my subconscious. I'm not even aware on a normal conscious level that, hey, I'm having a discussion with this actual entity, with this being. What does that mean? What does it want with me? I'm just trying to grow up. I'm not trying to
question. Yeah, because that's my question right now. It's like, why you? And excuse me, hold on. Mm-hmm. So why you? I mean, why not other people in your family? Or like, was there something about you that they were attracted to? Is it because you're a natural medium? Is it like, what do you think that
I think that there are entities that are very capable of reading people's auras, and they can see what kind of tools or abilities or different aura structures or energies that you have. Similar to when you go to a physician, you have a mole that looks suspect for perhaps cancer. So they have you disrobe, and they go over everything to make sure that you don't have any other moles or any other possibility for cancer. So they can see those things. Okay, it looks like you've had perhaps a ACL here. This is a common surgery. This is a common knee surgery. Scar that you have here. And they can see that in us. They can see that in our energy and our structure and our makeup. And so if it's kind of like Monsters Inc. for the kids movie, for anyone that's seen that, it takes a lot of energy for them to come here and be in our plane. And it takes a lot of energy for me to go there and to be into their plane. So that energy has to be stored. It has to come from somewhere. So they start vampiring off energy from people, pets, whatever, places, and they start making their presence there and gathering energy to stay in that sphere. And it's like, okay, I've got a couple of normal people here, perhaps, but this person here, they have certain abilities or their energy structure is very unique. And that might be considered like a prime rib, right?
Now,
Versus
how did you find this out? Did you eventually like have a conversation with one of them that told you this?
as far as what they're looking for in actual people, yes.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting story. I guess we need to get back to that because
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
you like maybe after you tell your story, you can kind of explain
certainly.
that because that right there is very interesting to me. Go ahead,
And
though. I want
it's
to hear this, though.
yeah, it's an energy vampirism thing, and that's where this thing comes from. Something is feeding off of you. You're
Yeah.
like a Duracell battery for it, right?
Wow.
Energizer battery, whatever, however you want to look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's trying to maintain its foothold here. You're part of that process. They have unique. You have a unique structure or things that they want specifically from you, or from your family, or from your network of friends and family that you have. So it's a good segue to lead into other things.
So people that are like sort of born with gifts like mediumship or clairvoyance or that kind of stuff, is that attractive to them?
Sure, it's like having a giant fluorescent target on your back
Oh, wow.
that says,
Okay.
"Hey, I'm here, and I can also see you too." And so
Mm.
that interaction
Mhm.
begins to take place very subtly, and then it grows.
Wow.
Continues to grow now.
Mm. That's interesting. Okay, so finish your story. This is very fascinating.
Sure. So I was in a Wiccan coven for over a decade. Um, and then the coven disbanded. People moved and went about their lives in different ways. So the group was no longer sustainable. So I was going through, I had a small library of books, around 200 titles, and I was looking for what my next adventure should be. And I had seen this Golden Dawn book, this big black brick
Yeah.
by Israel Regardi. I'm like, what is this, and where did this come from? And I started like just kind of perusing through there, looking at it, and I'm like, wow, I can see where they're going with some of these things, and this seems very interesting to me. And I opened up on the front cover, it said property of Sheila, and I knew it was somebody from our group. So whether it's a new moon gathering or a candle mass or in bulk festival, that
Mhm.
she had left this book for me. Um, I got online and found a local group that was just outside of Joliet, Illinois, in the Golden Dawn, and I got started into the um, Kabbalistic and ceremonial aspects of magic, which is very
Now,
exciting.
why did you choose to go that direction?
You know, it seemed very structured, where like say perhaps in a coven, people have their own gifts. So you might have someone that's really put a lot of time and effort into learning astrology, or someone else might be really great at scrying or reading tarot cards. So it's like, okay, I'm trying to learn some of these different things that are out there, but maybe these people won't share the information that they have, or I might not get an opportunity to learn from them.
Mhm.
It's not like a common learning structure. Everyone is pretty much on their own, doing their own things. But so for a beginner, that's tough,
Mhm.
because you're trying to figure all of this stuff out, and you can drive yourself crazy reading a million books and million different opinions on how to get somewhere, how to have a certain experience or conduct a ritual in a certain fashion that's successful, right? But the Golden Dawn, I'm very thankful for the entire system. It has an A, B, C, D learning structure, which is what I need. I'm that type of person. I have to have that structure in order for me to really grow. Otherwise,
Okay.
left to my own devices, it's not. It takes a lot longer to get those results if you get them at all.
Well, Golden Dawn teaches high magic versus low magic, and Wiccan is low magic. And I think a lot of people don't even know what that means. But the general concept of low magic is you're using like spells and tools and stuff like that, like earth type elements, um, and your own personal energy. High magic is where you're utilizing like archangels and um, doing and accessing your higher self. Did I describe that well?
I think that's pretty accurate. The high magic and low magic, I've kind of always left that up to the practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
because you have some practitioners that their reach is vast,
Mm.
and you're like, wow, man, like just okay, where did you learn this from?
I know.
I've been a witch for a long time. I've never seen anything like this, and you brought it. You brought it front and center, visible appearance, like blow your mind type of magic. And it's like, okay, so the low magic thing is. I mean, it's there's certain terms that we use. It's kind of like kung fu and boxing. It all depends on the practitioner.
I think maybe a better way of explaining high low magic is probably like beginners and expert.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit better definition. Now, and the other reason I'm bringing this up, I know that we are supposed to be talking about exorcism, but since the subject got brought up, it's people are going to be asking questions like, what is the Golden Dawn? And do they worship the devil? And, that kind of stuff, it's, all those kind of things. So no, and no. And,
Right.
it is a system that teaches you. The goal is to be able to have complete conversation 100% with your holy guardian angel, higher genius, higher self. A lot of people think that they have that, but Golden Dawn actually puts you through an alchemical process where you're literally like transforming yourself, and it takes years to do this. Like some people, it's 6. It's like probably 5 years would probably be the minimum, I think. But no, 6 years will probably be the minimum. And some people, they don't even get into that point until they're like 10 to 20 years in, So
It does take a considerable amount of time and effort, and it's the Kabbalistic ceremonial magic thing. It's kind of like character assassination, right? Because everything that you've told and that you've grown to accept, you have to work through a lot of those falsehoods, and it's going to take sheer honesty about yourself and your own shortcomings to fix that lens that you have, that how you're viewing the experience that is your reality, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's the only way that you can actually have true conversation with your higher self that's not polluted or filtered by your own issues. So that's this alchemical process takes you through that so that you can literally have that. So it's like your highest connection with God. And so you went that direction so that you could kind of like have this ability to access like higher spirits, or do you just wanted to learn high magic, or
so
like
in coming to the Golden Dawn, I wanted to learn as much as I possibly can, and that's still my goal, being there today for as long as I've been there, and to constantly evolve. And at that point in time, I believe I was around Zelator, Theoricus, which is one of the grades that's in the Golden Dawn, and a friend of mine started having all these really wild paranormal experiences in her place that she lived with her mom. And at that point in time, it didn't make sense. I'm like, you guys have been there for 8 years. What's changed? Did you bring antiques into the house? Did you take something from the forest, or perhaps what could have potentially been like say for instance, Sacred Native American Grove, a Arrowhead, or I mean, why now? You know, why are you seeing shadows? Why are you being pinned down by your drapes that are on your bed and having sleep paralysis and having odors and scratches and all this stuff go on? So she goes, well, you know, this is what's happening. Is there any way you can help me? So I went to the order and I approached two of the adepts there that were there at that point in time, and I explained everything that was going on. And I'm like, hey, this is what's happening with this friend of mine. And they're like, you don't take any crap from any of these negative, low-level spirits. You go there and you kick ass and you do this, and this. Gave me a laundry list of things to do. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm kind of a rookie here, guys, you know. And it was basically, are you in or are you out? Are you going to do this, or are you going to back out of it and back out of everything else that rises up and challenges you? And I'm like, wow, okay. I felt a little bit on the spot, and I got some courage, and we managed to set something up because it kept getting put off. And I said, well, hey, this is going to get worse before it gets better. And she had called me somewhere around 4:30 in the morning, and her boyfriend Justin was around 6 feet tall and probably 200 pounds, and she was probably 5 feet tall and about 90 pounds. And he was getting grabbed. Something had a hold of him, was turning him on this bed side to side violently. And so she was like trying to hold his head still so it wouldn't hurt his neck. And his vision of it was, get off me, you crazy bitch. What are you doing? She's like, I'm trying to hold you still so it doesn't break your neck. And that was the breaking point. Said, okay, get here tonight. I'll make sure the house is cleared out for you and you can do this work. And so I got my frankincense, my list of prayers and banishings, and mustered up the courage to go inside and get started. And started in her bedroom. Things were going well. I was feeling pretty confident. Went into the living room and started doing the banishings and prayers there. And as I got towards the dining room and towards the kitchen, things went really wrong there. That's when I got attacked. It was like being hit in the chest with a sledgehammer.
Ew.
That's the best way I can describe it. I went right to the ground. The frankincense, everything went on the floor. There's papers everywhere. And now I'm trying to breathe, so I'm trying to suck it up. I was like having the wind knocked out of you, but at the time it resulted in a broken sternum. I didn't know it at that point in time.
Oh, wow.
And so I heard in my head, this voice said, get up, get up, get up. If you don't get up, it's going to kill you. You have to get up. And so I was able to collect my thoughts, collect everything that was on the floor, and I finished the job at hand. It was successful. They didn't have any problems. What I didn't realize was that the landlord had rented out the second floor of the home, which I had never, when you stop by someone's house, you usually stop in for a few minutes or you hang out in the living room for a bit and then you go. It's not like you're walking through what do you have going on the second floor? You mind your own business kind of thing. I didn't realize that they had rooms for rent for people that were in various stages of recovery with NA and AA. So they had some people that had succumbed to suicide and some serious substance abuse issues going on there. So that was their point of entry to collect energy, was through that. And that's how the house became infested, so to speak, with negativity. And so they stayed there for another 2 years, and then they never had any other problems. They were able to move on with their lives and everything.
Dang. Oh, wow. So basically what you're saying is that people that are like super negative or in a really bad state, they become like magnets for these type of beings. Okay. I call it food. You become their food.
Yes.
Because they're wanting to collect that energy from you. Why is it that they feed off of negative energy versus positive energy? What is it about the negative energy that helps them have whatever it is that they need?
Well, it's the heightened emotions and the heightened
Mm.
impact that bring that energy to a pinnacle. So, say for instance, if you have a discussion with somebody turns into a debate on the edge of being an argument, that brings up the energy current, right?
Mhm.
And if the argument escalates into something physical, well, now that goes from a 7 to a 10 on the energy chart, like right now. So that pinnacle of energy is what causes them to feed.
Mm.
That draws their attention. There's an opportunity there for them to take, and as they continue to do a divide and conquer and create negative energy, it just grows and grows. If there's issues, believe it or not, they also can contact other spirits to help them.
Oh, wow. Very, very crazy.
Right.
Um, wow. So then what happened?
I mean, from that point on, it was really interesting because it was like people started to hear about the story of what had happened,
Mhm.
and then the phone started ringing. People started getting my name and number, and I'm like, where? I don't know how you heard of me out in Raleigh, like how did you? But there was a friend of a friend that heard from somebody else, and it grew like wildfire. And
Mhm.
not every case, not every phone call is a demonic possession or some infestation. There's a lot of people that they have a lot of instability in their lives, and there's a lot of people that are just plain scared.
Mhm.
But then, of course, you do come across some cases where it's like, wow, this is the real thing. This person's not mentally ill. They're not using a lot of drugs. They live a normal professional life. They've had a successful family unit for some point in time. So where is
Okay,
this coming from?
yeah, so that doesn't make any sense. You just said that they draw on people who have these problems.
Hmm.
So why would they choose somebody who has, I mean, they're not getting energy off of that.
Oh no, that's exactly the point. It's like for somebody that has their family unit is really good and it's really tight, and they have a good energy. They have a balanced disposition. They have a successful life, but they have these certain gifts that they want or that are appealing. Well, that's the thrill of the actual hunt. They're going to go for it. They're going to
Mhm.
go for it because there are people out there that are easy targets that are their lives are that aren't very healthy. They're not making good choices that are, good for their body, good for their spirit, good for their mind, right? But there are other people that they come across these right impasses. They find something at an antique store. They bring it into their house. This has negative energy that's been attached to it for quite some time, and it starts to break them down,
Mhm.
and things happen.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Makes me not want to go antique shopping anymore. Yeah.
I always clear things before I bring them into the house. It's a definite. It's a must. You don't know where it's been. You don't know what it's experienced. I did some early work with a client that him and his wife were very well to do. He was um, an artist, and she was an executive for Motorola at that point in time. Um, and he looked for something unique for her 40th birthday, and so he found a high-end antique dealer in the city of Chicago, and their favorite place of vacation was Thailand. So
Mhm.
he bought what's called a spirit house, or it's like a, I'm not describing this well. It's like a pagoda that's
Mhm.
very ornate and was hand carved out of wood and probably from like the 17th century. And they would make this beautiful home, and then they would have it placed outside their house to say, "This is your place. We realize that you're here. You're part of the land and energy that surround us, but this is your house. You can stay here. This is our place. We stay there." So they had this as a delineation, this separation, right? So he bought her this gift, and they thought it was the greatest thing ever. And things started to happen in the house. Paranormal activity began to ramp up. They didn't know what to do. This thing latched onto her, and within a year's time, she was gone. She had picked up dementia. She couldn't write her own name. It was the wildest thing. When I went to interview him, my sister was there lending a hand with this case, and I had 5 packs of brand new batteries for digital recording devices to pick up any kind of energy spikes. I had all kinds of things set up. They were all dead. All the batteries, brand new, in the package, completely dead, useless. So you can imagine if something's that strong, to do that, what it can do to a person being in your home 24/7 and latched onto your energy. And it was very terrifying for him. It was a hell of a case.
So what's this? Did this box have like a whole bunch of spirits in it that came from a different home?
Correct. When it was from Thailand and the Philippines area since the 17th century, so for a long time, he had paid a premium for it because it was a rare item. It was very beautiful. It was interesting because when we're doing the walkthrough in the house, the master bedroom, it looked like a European style castle on top of this large dresser. So by a European castle, I mean it had like a central dome, and the 4 towers had domes on the top of it. So I'm like, okay, and kind of walked through the bedroom and continued doing the walk through the house. And we came back through there the second time is when it looked like the Thai pagoda. And I said, wait a second. I said, what happened to the castle that was here? And he was confused by this when I confronted him. I said, is there anyone else here in the house with us? And he said, no, I live here by myself. So I asked my sister to bust out the pendulum. I said, put it over there. Just take a fast moment, get yourself focused, and hold the pendulum over this. And it was completely helicoptering. You know what I mean? It was just fast. So, okay, I said, okay, this is where the problem is. But he was emotionally attached to it. These things have a way of getting hooks in your mind. I'm like, hey, this is the source of the problem. I know that you gave it to your wife, and it was the last birthday gift that you ever gave her was this, and it's important to you, but we need to get rid of this. And he was very reluctant to do that. And it wasn't until he had a vision of watching himself peel off his own flesh with a piece of broken glass that convinced him that it was time. And that was what.
Well, did you find anything out about it? Like, did you discover anything, or did you just get rid of the box and the whole thing got better? Like, what ended up happening with that scenario?
Well, there were several spirits that were attached to that box. That was the first thing. It was you're dealing with more than one, and you're working cross-culturally. So there's different rules, there's different paradigms that go with that. So it's not just as easy as just getting rid of the box. Now you have to get the box blessed. You have to dismantle it. You have to get, you have to scatter the actual pieces of it. It's kind of like, for instance, if you ever encounter an actual jinn spirit from the Middle East, and you call out the name of Jesus Christ, and it says, I was here first. Is that all you have? And they just laugh. It's not going to work. There's different rules with different spirits from different lands and different cultures. Wow. Similarly to dealing with the Native American spirit here, they're not going to respond to certain names or certain deities that you might feel comfortable with. That doesn't mean anything to them at all.
Oh, wow. That in itself is fascinating to me. And then you have to learn, like, what is the most powerful spirit in that. So because it was from a different culture, and so you couldn't, like, banish that energy the American way or whatever, so it's like you had to figure out, like, what was the high spirit in that culture.
Right.
Really?
So
Oh,
you have to find out what it's going to really relate to. In the case of the spirit, I had worked with a adult that he grew up in Pakistan, and I guess he was near a body of water, and he was around 10, and a jinn spirit was attached to him. So they had their local cleric come out and do all of his blessings and everything else, but his life, even though he moved to the United States as a young teenager, his life began to devolve into drug addiction, heroin, and all these other things that started to come up in his life. And it got traced back to this jinn spirit that was still there. So now,
mm.
trying to get rid of the jinn spirit, like I said, it was not hearing anything about Jesus Christ. It just laughed. It's like, that all you got? I was here first.
Oh, wow.
You have to, and they will try to mock you. They will try to break you down. And what was the calling card for getting rid of the jinn spirit was Kali.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was also very interesting the fact that it was almost like a coalition. So yeah, of course I had called down Christian archangels, Christ energy, you know, Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, and Oriel. But now, okay, let's bring Kali into the mix. You're talking about a completely different energy, but it all came together for the common goal, and he's been able to move on with his life and live a very successful life on top of that. So it was a great thing.
After multiple interruptions and attempts to try to record. Okay, so my question to you is, do you like if I was to travel to areas like India or certain areas where there would be like a Hindu culture,
Mm-hmm.
would I need to like bring Kali with me? Like, is there like certain kind of protection? I mean, do they have their own like protective angels, or is it all gods and goddesses, or how does that work? Because I mean, I primarily just work with angels. So,
Sure.
how does that work when you're dealing with other cultures?
Well, I mean, it's important first that you are doing some kind of spiritual work. A lot of people are really lacking in their practice, which makes them easy targets, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
kind of like being really out of shape and deciding to go to the gym, and you try to work out and you realize how weak that you really are. And it's the same thing with our spiritual muscle,
Yeah.
if you will, because there's a lot of people out there that they say that they're religious and it's in their own way and their own practices, which means that you simply don't do anything, right? And so, but if you have some background, if you are disciplined, if you do have a solid practice, then you're not the easy target that they wish to take on. You
Mhm.
have you have friends, you have associates and contacts on the other planes, of course, and doing all the work that you've done. And so, you know what? I'm going to pass on Michelle. I'm just going to let her pass on by, and as long
Yeah.
as she doesn't cause any kind of riffraff here, then I'm just going to ignore her. There's other easier targets that I can
Mhm.
pick on without any consequence or be challenged at all.
Wow, that's so fascinating to me. And I do know that. I do know that people, like, I've had people who said to me they were cursed,
Mm-hmm.
and I started working with them on, changing their mindset and getting into a more positive state. And they started noticing their luck improved and life became different and better. And they didn't feel like they were cursed before. Like they were absolutely, I had this one guy I worked with who was Indian, and he was absolutely convinced he was cursed.
Yes.
And and so like just making that adjustment, suddenly he started having like really good luck. Like people started being nice to him, things
Um,
people started being nice to him, and he started having all this really good luck, and that it was just this huge difference. And and this is what I personally try to explain to people. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, is because I want people to understand that it doesn't really matter if you believe something or not. Those energies exist. You can label it as demonic. You can label it as spirits. You can label it as gods, angry gods, or bad gods, or good gods, or Anunnaki, or whatever,
Oh yeah, for sure.
whatever. You can call them Pac-Man. You can call them amoebas. It doesn't really matter. You can label it, and they've been labeled many different things through different cultures. But the fact is this energy, it does feed off of negativity. So if you feel like your life is falling apart, the reason for it is because you're this little bit of energy that you have, it's like it's pulling that, and it's keeping you and causing more chaos so you can produce more food for it.
Right, right. And I think what you made was a really excellent point, because where attention goes, energy flows. It's one of the greatest things about magic. So if you really say, hey, I'm cursed, I've got all this negative stuff going on, and that's your mindset, then the universe is going to generate everything to support that mindset. And saying, hey, okay, you are cursed. Oh man, this is great. So of course your car is going to be constantly having problems. Your relationships, your job, your career, everything's going to gear up to meet that mindset that you have, that you're constantly generating.
Yeah, so I was actually saw this TikTok this guy did, and he was talking about that. He was saying that that when you have all this fear, and when you have all this fear inside of you, this the universe has to give you what you desire. And the way that I understand it is that you may think you don't desire it, but if you're thinking about it and you're putting a lot of attention on it, the universe sees it as a desire. So therefore, the universe works as this little machine that basically gives you what you want. And so, like, if your focus and your intention and everything you do and in your thought is fearful, then you're fearful of relationships, you're fearful of failure, fearful of these things, then it gives you that energy. Um, and you become a magnet for those dark forces.
Absolutely.
To provide that fear to come true. And the angelic forces are not in alignment with that. So their goal is to bring enlightenment and serve you and help you grow into that space. So if your focus isn't there, then they're not present.
The angelic.
And that's something I wanted to kind of talk to you about, because I want to kind of get into the angelic space because you deal with that, right?
Right. So
Okay.
the angels are their own interesting paradigm. They're not the fun, fluffy winged creatures and cute cherubs that we've been told as children and young adults coming into the world and viewing the Bible and such. They don't tolerate any crap whatsoever. They're quite terrifying to have real visions and have one of them actually appear to you, and their energy can be overwhelming. It's also almost like we have a simple toaster circuitry, right? We have a couple levels of brown. It's a simple resistor circuit to what we want to get out of this piece of bread, and you plug that into a nuclear powerhouse of energy. It can be very overwhelming. It can be detrimental. It can break you psychologically because you're not prepared for that experience. We all want this experience, right? You want to have this divine moment and this epiphany and rapture, okay? And well, what happens when you do have it and you realize how much time you've squandered and how you've misused all the gifts that you've been given and how selfish you are as a person? And you're like, wow, what the hell? How did I miss the mark so bad? When did my sense of entitlement begin? How did this happen? So yeah, you have to be very careful what you ask for, because some things out there they'll just give it to you, and there's no fault and shame on their part. These are raw energy forces. They'd be like, hey, you know what? I just gave Michelle what she asked for, And then in the meantime, your life is in ruins. Your relationship, there's a divide there that you can no longer cross. There's things now that you're trying to pick up all the pieces around you from the holy fallout that you've just experienced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very careful with these forces too.
So let's talk about that. So you just kind of painted a very scary picture of angels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are you speaking specifically about like Enochian angels, or because I was under the impression of like certain angels that are a little bit closer to Earth aren't quite like that, like Ariel or Raphael. Some of these what you would call sort of like humanity angels.
Right. There are of course there are angels that are within our sphere here, being on the earth, that are here to help us. But they're sure as hell not going to take any crap for us. They're going to see through every kind of blind that you can throw up to try to covet or hide. So you need to be very careful with how you treat them. They're not here to be some kind of servant and hold our hand through a life. That's for sure. If you're going to get on board, and if you're going to be pious, and if you're going to pray and be thankful, even on your worst day, you might get some respect and reverence from that. But if you're looking at what's in it for me, or if you have any kind of underlying intention, so to speak, it's not going to end out well for you at all.
And it's interesting you say that, because I've been working with Gabriel for a really long time, and I've had and I have an agreement, like Gabriel has the ability or the permission to use me as a
conduit.
A conduit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's an agreement that I had with him like probably like 20 years ago. And so the what's interesting is when I tell people that, they'll say, "Oh, I want to talk to Gabriel," and he doesn't show up. Like there's just like no interest whatsoever, like zero. And I'm like, and then sometimes like even when I'm meditating, I'm like, okay, I want to talk to him because I'm having an issue. It's just like nothing. And it's like he steps in when he wants to step in, when he feels like he has something that this person needs or wants to show up and give you. It's sort of like picking and choosing. And in the very beginning, when I first started working with him, he was very present, and he was very like treating me like a child, sort of like guiding me through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it was sort of like step back and shows up whenever he feels like it. At least that's been my experience. And I've had better luck with Ariel to be on call. I don't know, but your thoughts are interesting. I would like to hear like what your thoughts are about that.
These aspects of the divine that are out there in all this various forms.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's very be like, okay, Oriole, there's a specific challenge that I'm having. What is it that I'm not seeing within myself?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I'm missing in this? How can my perception change? But if I decide to, you know what, I'm going to call upon Oriole and try to task this angel, or try to pull some nonsense, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get hurt.
So what do you mean by okay, so you're saying a lot of words that I really want some definition behind.
Okay, sure.
You're going to be you said tested, or you're going to get hurt, or you said nonsense that like what do you mean by that? Because my conversations have not been, I don't think that I'm that way with them. I mean, I have a lot of respect for them, but yeah, sometimes I do want their help. Like if something's like bad happening, or challenging, it's like a little help,
I will try to ask them for the wisdom, and ask them for what I'm missing. How am I underdeveloped? How can this be understood better than to ask them to help to solve a problem, right? And sometimes when you ask for the truth to be revealed to you, or to have them in a strong physical presence or experience, it can leave you fragmented to where you're trying to collect your thoughts, because it's almost like your thoughts are really scattered, and all of a sudden you're reaching and trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, which I love the story of Humpty Dumpty, because it is an excellent representation of spirit coming off the wall of self and being broken. And now all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put you back together again. You're trying to get back to where you once were. And you can no longer do that, because you've crossed certain shifts in consciousness and awareness, whether you're ready for them or not. And now you're like, wow, man, what the hell just happened? You got what you asked for, and it was a little more than on what you were than you could bear.
So when you said that that they could break you, explain that.
So that's again.
I'm asking you because I know my audience, right?
Yep.
And I know that some of this stuff is very new to them. So from their perspective, they're probably not gonna understand what you mean. So I'm asking for
clarity in this. Sure.
Yeah, like speak to them like they're a fifth grader, you know?
Okay. So say for instance, you're going to put together a ritual for Metatron. You want Metatron to come to you, and you want Metatron to come in physical presence. You want Metatron to come into your life. So you put together an elaborate ritual with rose petals on the floor. You've got a 7-day fast. You've got a list of prayers and incantations that are going to last an entire day long. And then this divine presence comes in, and it's overwhelming. It's emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally overwhelming. It's more than your simple circuit can handle. And that causes all these paradigms and these shifts in awareness, and your house of cards of reality of how you perceive it tumbles and falls. And now you're like, what does my life mean? I've misused my time, my efforts, my energies, the people that are in my life. A lot of these things have been very selfish and self-serving. Me. And now you have this lens of, wow, there's so much more that I've been missing out on. And I've really missed the mark. And I have squandered this opportunity of the greatest gift, which is life, which is free will, which is awareness. And it leaves you upset, broken. Like, how has my whole life, how have I conducted myself this way? How did this happen? And we build these walls around ourselves to protect ourselves with ideas, standards, and some of these things are great falsehoods. It's kind of like the Tower card, where that divine lightning bolt comes down, and all these things that you've built up that you feel are your really great moments in life. And now you have to sort through that rubble. You have to pick yourself back up. You have to start from square one and come up with new values and new ideas and new paradigms to move forward. And that's what magic is. We realize that we've done some things wrong, and now we're challenging ourselves to grow in certain ways that can be quite uncomfortable.
Wow. It's really interesting you saying this, because I'm actually reading this book right now about this guy who actually had a UFO experience and he met an alien. Okay. And it's called UFOs and Gods or something to that effect. And Chris Bedstone or Bedford or something, I can look it up and tell you what it is in a little while. But so he said that when he saw this being in the forest, he was out like fishing and camping with a bunch of friends and his family and stuff, but he saw this being, and in the presence of that being, suddenly he felt those feelings you're talking about right there. Um, it it was, how could I shoot this animal? He said from this that day on, he wouldn't even step on a bug, because he was, everything is a living consciousness, and he said that just extreme amount of guilt on how he had lived his life, even as far as like hunting and fishing and stuff like that, just really like made him feel this massive amount of guilt,
Hmm.
you know, for that. So, it's just similar. And so sometimes I wonder, you know, who are these people showing up? These beings that are so-called aliens, are they really aliens, or are they something else? Um, and or have they just evolved to such a higher level of consciousness that they're at the same level of consciousness as an experience that you would have with like an angel or something, you know?
Sure, and it's similar to you're trying to have a conversation with your cat or with your dog. There's things that they understand and
Mm,
that they know. There's a lot of things that you can't talk about music or melody and harmony, all these different things with them. Their awareness isn't there, or it is, and we haven't found the right keywords or way to communicate with them properly. And this is what goes on with other entities or higher level beings.
mm,
And even some of these negative entities that have not crossed over the earthbound threshold, and that they lived a very corrupt life, they haven't crossed over successfully, they don't want to, and they stay here, and they're these wayward spirits are kind of like stray dogs. You go down to walk to your local coffee shop, and all of a sudden there's this feral animal that's attacking you, and it's seemingly random, and it's a terrifying experience, right? It's just
mhm.
some stray dog, and that's how some of these spirits are. They just pow. You're walking along, you're going through life, you're minding your own business. Next thing you know, you're being attacked.
Wow.
And
So,
and
so this is so when you're saying this, basically, I think you told me once before in a conversation we had that the majority of the time it's not even demons.
Correct.
It's
Those are
it's
very
wayward
few.
spirits. Yeah.
Yes, demons are very, very, very few and far in between, where those cases are a real demonic entity that's never walked the face of the earth. And those are really dangerous, because those are the ones that you better have your game face on, because they're gonna be very difficult to deal with.
Uh,
And they have, um, in their own words, they have the God given authority to be here.
uh,
And there is truth to that also. When I take a case, I ask, should I help this person? Do I have the permission to assist this person? Very few times, but it has happened several times where it's been, no, you do not, and you
mm,
are not to interfere.
mm,
And that's like, wow, man. Like, hey, this family's being torn apart, these horrible things are happening, but if it says no, then that's it. And sometimes, yeah, in my own stubborn way, you want to be a conduit for the greater good. You want to do the right things, but there are some actions that have to happen,
mm.
that they're
Wow,
going to
that's
happen. And I've asked 5 different ways, and it's still no, every
mm,
5, 7 different ways, and it's no, 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 stop. And then it's hands off. I'm sorry, I cannot help you. I'm not the right practitioner, perhaps. Perhaps this is not the right time, whatever, but I'm out. I'm sorry that I can't help you.
wow. That's pretty interesting. I feel like I learned a lot today. This is quite the story. Um, I love this conversation. This is absolutely fascinating. Is there anything else that you want to add before we say goodbye, or is there any
Um,
part of the story that we left out? Anything that you want to add to this?
for all the people that are listening to this,
Mhm.
whatever I hope that you find spiritual practice, whether it's Zen Buddhism, Seventh-day Adventist, the Hindu pantheon, whatever it is, find your niche, be it, grow, develop that spiritual strength that you do need, because these practices, whether it's the Golden Dawn or otherwise, they're tremendous. They're very complex, but the rewards and to live a deeper experience of life makes all this worthwhile. And there's a lot of things out there that we'll never understand, but we will do the best that we can with this experience and with this massive responsibility that we have each and every day, and do our best. And that means something. That's very important. So that's, if there's one thing that I can say to anybody else that's out there that is listening, it's that.
Okay. If somebody wanted to contact you, are you taking on clients?
Sure.
Okay.
I am. They can reach me at Mendoza, Mendoza 7777 at gmail.com.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let me see if I think I might have already typed this up. So I guess I didn't. So tell me again, what is it?
Mendoza 7777 at gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
And I also have a website called healinglightworks.com.
Okay. And let's see, hold on a second here. So if you guys, I'm going to put all this information, I'm going to put it in the description. So if you want this contact information, his website, make sure that you look in the description. Okay. And I just want to thank you all for joining today. And if you have any questions, please put it in the comments, and Phil will actually come back and answer some of these questions as soon as he can. And we'll be seeing you soon. Okay. Y'all have a wonderful day.